Hey everyone, Sam here at ModelChili Scale Models. And what do we have here? Yes, it's another Bandai 172 scale Perfect Grade Millennium Falcon. But no, it's not my own kit. This is going to be another commission build. And I'm really not sure what sort of format this build is going to take video-wise. I'm going to mix the construction up a little bit. I'm going to do things slightly differently than I did last time. I'll put a link to the playlist of the previous build, so if you're curious and you haven't seen that before, then you can go check that out. But yeah, I'm going to do things in slightly a different order, mix things up a bit, and yeah, so join me as I find out how this video series is going to evolve. So unlike the first build where I did the figures and the cockpit first, I'm going to start with the major sub-assemblies this time around. So I'm going to build up the mandibles, the docking ports, and the engine cover, and move on from there. And so here are the docking bays completed, construction-wise. They're pretty much exactly the same within the ring, but the surface detail on each side is slightly different. Just a few extra greebles here and there. I'm not sure which one is the port and starboard, but instructions will tell me later on. And now moving on to the maintenance bays of the mandibles. So having a look at some of the detail in here before I fill it up. This happens to be the engine deck of a Matilda tank. Some model parts that they originally used. And yeah, this kit is full of identifiable model parts from tanks, aircraft, bulldozers, C-Lab model kits, all sorts really. It's really fun to just have a close look and identify, or try and identify all these little pieces. But as far as these go, they just clip together. This is just an example of some of the lovely little details that Bandai has included. Now this was originally a gun mantlet from a tank, So the gun would poke out of here, and this would attach to the turret from the original model piece that ILM used to build the Falcon back in the day. And they've just attached a few greebles to the bottom of it there. But what I find really interesting is that you can still see the notch in there from the original model kit, which helps you correctly align the gun barrel down into that slot. A common feature among tank models. So that's really cool that it's still on this piece. And so that's the engine deck, pretty much complete. I just need to attach some of the fins along here and all the struts that go over the top of this fairing that goes along the back, but I don't want to put those on yet because I need to paint on some red and grey panels along here once I put on the base coat. So I'll just leave that for now. But for now I need to put in the little Freddo Etch grills, and those are in the decal sheet, which I'll need to carefully remove. There are plastic options, of course, but they're not see-through, not nearly as refined. So if there's metal, always use that, in my opinion anyway. And I just use my side cutters to cut these out. The metal isn't thick enough to damage the nippers. So if any of you follow my Instagram, you might have seen that I recently returned from a work trip to North Carolina. Off to see Epic Games out in Cary. And yeah, it was a really fun trip. I've never been to that part of the world before. I've been to LA a couple of times, but never to the east coast of the US. And the weather was great. The people were really nice and friendly. Wasn't such a great city to walk around in, you definitely need a car. In the area we took a lot of Ubers, tried to do a bit of walking, but there are some places where the footpath just disappears. It's really bizarre, especially for what we're used to in this part of the world. But yeah, apart from that, everything was great. I was there for a couple of weeks. We did a lot of shopping, did a lot of eating. It was nice to see the northern stars again, if you're into that sort of thing. I used the opportunity to purchase a few things from Amazon using the cheap and fast shipping. Of course, my suitcases were bursting to the brim on the way back. But yeah, I'd really like the opportunity to go out there again. We thought about taking the weekend to Washington DC, but it just turned out to be a bit of a rush and a bit wasn't really going to. We weren't really going to squeeze everything in that we wanted to see, so we decided to leave that till next time maybe. But yeah, it's the first time I've travelled. Well, actually, the flight from Auckland to Houston was about 14 hours. That was the longest flight I've ever been on. I used to live in the UK, and I've gone back and forth between there and New Zealand a few times. So I'm certainly used to long haul flights, but never quite been on a 14-hour one. And the last time I was in the UK was 2008, so it's been a while since I've done any long travelling. So that was quite fun, getting used to all the jet lag and the travelling and all that, going through all the airports and security checkpoints, and I'm certainly glad I don't do it often. Getting too old for that sort of thing. Alright, so these slot in under here. You just have to make sure they're all lined up correctly. And what I'm going to do is just initially glue them in with a bit of white glue, just so I've got a bit of room to maneuver them and get them all aligned before they set. And then once that's dry, I'll fasten them with some super glue, because you really don't want to accidentally put your finger through this and pop it out, because once everything's finished, reattaching them will be really difficult. So I just want to make sure that they don't pop out. Now there also is a flat side and a 3D side, which is really difficult to see sometimes. I just don't want the flat side to be facing out. Alright, so as I said before, I need to paint some of these panels different colours before I put on any extra pieces, but what I've decided to do, because this is a Bandai kit and no glue is needed, I'm just going to temporarily fix the parts I need and then paint it, and then remove them later on when I need to paint underneath them. Alright, so that's the engine cover, 2 of the mandibles, and 2 of the docking ports, all pretty much done. So now the next step is to start painting them. And I'm going to prime these with a black to start off with, and that will help with the weathering and the chipping later on. But I'm just going to spray from a spray can all of these pieces entirely black, and then I'll move on to the base coat. So that's the black applied, and now I'm going to lay on the base coat, and for that I'm using Vallejo Modeler Insignia White 71279. Alright, so that's all of those parts painted up with the base coat of the Insignia White. And as you can see, there's just a little bit of the black peeking through from behind all of the recessed areas. And that just adds a bit of shadows, a bit of depth to the paintwork. And I think it's come out looking pretty good. Colour-wise, there's going to be a lot more layers of weathering and panel painting and things like that to come, so obviously it's going to look very basic initially, but you'll see it come together as I start adding more layers. But for now I think I'll probably leave it there and move on to some more building. You can see there's just a couple of little blobs of paint where it's stuck between the grills, but that's all good. I'll just incorporate that into the weathering, so I'm not going to stress about it too much at the moment. It's certainly doesn't need to be perfect. These are grill bits. But the rest of the paint job has gone down really nicely. And you can just see some of the detail there. Really pops with that black undercoat. And yeah, so I'll just need to pop out all of these little... I think these are parts of a bulldozer model kit. Yeah, bulldozer blade at the front there. So they butchered a lot of model kits for that. But these will pop out and then I can paint the panels underneath. And then move on from there. So yeah, so that wraps up this first video for this build. I'm doing this one slightly differently, as I said at the start. Just a few different painting techniques and things. So if you've got any, as always, if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask in the comments. And thanks for watching. So until next time, watch those asteroids.